Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
All right. Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Sam Bushman live on your radio. Hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use, no doubt, starts now. This, my fellow Americans, is the broadcast for March 27th in the year of our Lord 2025. This is our one of two. Always promoting God, family, and country. Always protecting life, liberty, and property. Doing so on your radio in the traditions of our founding fathers. Yes, indeed, we use the blueprint for liberty, the supreme law of the land, the Constitution for the United States of America. That is our guide. That means the incredible checks and balances brilliantly put in place by the founding fathers. One of the peaceful, restorative solutions we still have at our fingertips. So count on that. There's just so much going on in the news, it's hard to break it all down. I'm on the road today, but I've got some incredible guests to be with me for both hours. I've got some Tucker Carlson stuff that's really shocking, etc. I've got some recaps from yesterday's show with Lance Miliaccio and George Ballantine, the Big Mig brothers, doing a great job. I talked to them about Donald Trump and about the emails that I'm getting sent. They're begging me for money left and right. I just think it's just abhorrent. I'm a news guy. I've been a news guy, a broadcast journalist for a long time. News the networks refuse to use has been my calling card. The new media takes center stage has been my calling card. They have the audacity to use the new media term. Everybody's using it now, but I used it before it was even a popular term. Anyway, I bring this up because then they're emailing me as if I'm just Joe Blow and they don't even know who I am. And they're like, "Hi, Sam. You know, you can go to Mar-a-Lago. I'm inviting you to dinner. It's going to be incredible. I'll pay for it all." And then you read a little further, and it's like, if you sign up and spend some money and donate to me I'll put you in a sweepstakes, and you just might win, Sam. You know what? I don't mean to be rude to the Donald or anybody else, but that's an absolute slap in the face. The time I've given the Donald Trump coverage, I've interviewed both of his sons. I've literally talked about his policies. Once in a while, I'm very critical of the moves that he makes. When he bombs Yemen or some of these kind of things, I'm very critical. He talks peace, but yet, hey, why are we increasing bombings on people that we don't need to be bombing at all? When we talk about, hey, why are we adding tariffs, increasing costs for the American people, but they've done nothing to decrease my costs so far. Everybody says, Sam, give them time. I've given them plenty of time. Literally, you know what? For Congress, it's all of January, all of February, all of March. We're almost into April now. I don't see that they've accomplished much at all. Okay, Donald Trump does a lot of great things, and I commend him for them. But he does them literally via executive order. And if you want to say he needs to take the lead because of an emergency and executive orders are the only way he can set the stage for the discussion, fine, I go there. I'm not really an executive order guy. Because you can't make law from the bench if you're a judge, and you can't make law from the Oval Office if you're the president. The lawmaking responsibilities constitutionally are clearly in the hands of the House and the Senate, Congress. And all spending bills are clearly in the House responsibility. All right? The purse strings are controlled by the House of Representatives. So I appreciate Donald Trump saying, hey, I'm going to put together an executive order. I feel like it's essential that we get on this. I want to basically let the Congress understand how serious I am about some of these critical things that we're facing. I get all that. I support that. But yet, at the same time, unless Congress doubles down, backs the president, and codifies the legislative reality, and then Trump signs it into law, it's not legislation at all. Okay? It's called pretend legislation. Let me say that again. It's called pretend legislation. And I know people, talk to me about this till I'm blue in the face, but look, go read your Declaration of Independence, if you will. And if you really want to understand the Founding Fathers, you got to not only read the Declaration of Independence, but the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. You got to read the Federalist Papers, the Anti-Federalist Papers. You got to make sure you understand what made the Founding Fathers tick, what their frustrations were, what they did and why they did it. And you got to get in their hearts and minds the best you can. The way I do it's a lot of prayer and a lot of study. And I think if you do the same, you'll come to the same conclusions. I mean, this country is an absolute blessing on the world stage. And this country should be taking center stage, not because we're great, not because we're awesome, but because we turned to God Almighty, uniquely positioned. We as a country said, hey, government's not the top dog anymore. The top dog is spelled backwards, G-O-D. Actually, dog is spelled backwards. God is spelled correctly, right? God's in charge, not government. And that was a unique departure from former civilization realities that we can point to. You don't have a dictator at the top. You don't have a monarch at the top. And they're trying to turn the Donald into a monarch, it seems to me. When I say they, who's they? I don't know. I don't know who's pulling the strings. That's the problem. Is Donald a deep state operative? I don't think so. But I feel so. What do I mean by that? I don't think he has bad intentions. I don't think he's waking up every morning thinking, how can I jettison America and promote world government? I don't think Donald's thinking that at all. But I do think the deep state is so deep, so murky. I mean, it reminds me of my buddy's show from James Edwards, The Political Cesspool. I mean, it is a cesspool when it comes to the deep state, when it comes to politics, when it comes to secret government, shadow governments, etc., right? And so we've got to be cognizant of that and realize that we're really in a battle that continued from in heaven. There was a war in heaven. We kicked Satan, the evil one, whatever you want to call it, Lucifer. They used to call him son of the morning, out. Kicked him out. He came down to earth without bodies, him and his minions. And then the war has been continuing ever since. Okay, we're all pawns in the middle of that war. Will you follow Christ or will you follow Satan? It's a decision every one of us must indeed make. You can deny it if you want, but it won't change the reality check. And if we basically gravitate towards Satan, we're going to gravitate towards tyranny. If we gravitate towards Christ, we gravitate towards liberty. And every choice, we're all agents unto ourselves. Every choice we make gravitates us towards one or the other. And that power increases on one hand or the other, right? And that's the reality. And the only question left is, where do you sit? It's a culture war, but it's more than that. It's a war of agency versus the stealing of your agency. That's what the war is really about. Do you have the right to be an agent unto yourself, the right to choose good over evil, or will you be forced to choose or forced to not have a choice? That's the real question left. And every one of us must wrestle with these principalities and dominions and realities to say, hey, sometimes it's a flesh war when they send us to war, when big armchair quarterback leaders force us into wars. Sometimes it's a physical war. But more often than not, it's a war of morality versus immorality, right versus wrong, good versus bad, right? Good versus evil, that kind of stuff. And we must make choices. Will we stand for pro-life or pro-death? There is indeed opposition in all things, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to tell you. And we must really decide where we are. Where do we stand? What will we spend our time doing? What will we engage in? And I'm down here in Las Vegas, and man, it's shocking. It is shocking. I go to these conventions, and there's a lot of people doing a lot of great things. Don't misunderstand me. But man, I walk by this one station, and they literally have I don't know if you call it a recovery station or what they call it, but they literally have an IV booth. And you can go in there and get an IV, and the IV is like saline solution and vitamin B and some stuff like that to try to help you, feel it. And I went up to the lady and I said, hey, why are people doing this? Why are they getting these IVs? They're normally like $100, $150 to get one of these things. They're giving them out free. And I'm like, why are you guys doing this? They're like, because when people come to these, events, I mean, they party hard. They drink all day and they stay up all night and they party. And the next day they can't hardly, come back to work. And so they got to do this IV to recover from the hangovers and such. And I'm just thinking, people, what is the matter with you? And so I said, no IV for me. I'm out. I don't want one of those. I don't need that. What I do is get a good night's rest. I don't drink. I don't go get a hangover in the first place. I wake up, drink a lot of water, stay hydrated, use my time wisely. I don't run faster than I have strength. That's biblical, right? And I spend my time working on the things that are of great import, which are, how do I promote business? How do I promote God, family, country? How do I protect life, liberty, property? How do I maintain my advocacy for agency, the freedom to choose? And then how do I then use my leadership on this earth to make a difference in other people's lives around me? How do I influence them for good? How do I help them understand what's at stake? How do I put things on the kitchen table so they're so easy to understand that you cannot mince words, that you cannot misunderstand what I say? How do I do those things? And I spend days and nights and prayers and thoughts and hopes and study in order to be a great advocate for these causes that I'm speaking of, okay? For these principles, for these. But I look at this and I just go, man, there's just throngs of people, and their big goal is, hey, When does the next party start? They made up a term even about this. It's time. What time is it? It's beer 30, they say. What the heck is beer 30? Well, it starts as early as we can possibly start. And we hope you'll start early with us. And I'm just going, no thanks. Folks, we cannot turn our minds over to the adversary, to the evil one. Can't do it, won't do it. Got to stand for God, family, and country. Got to get it done now. We're wasting time. And the more you lose control of your faculties, the greater chance that you will not be able to make wise choices. Eventually, those choices will be stolen from you. Then what do you do, I ask, huh? All right, I'm Sam Bushman. This is the one and only Liberty Roundtable Live, hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use talk show.
Mr. President,
Senator from Kentucky.
reserving the right to object. I lived for 4 months in Asheville, worked at the VA hospital, still have fond feelings for Western North Carolina. But the thing is the reason why we won't do this in a responsible way is because the Senate voted to send all your money to Ukraine. They voted to send $200 billion to Ukraine. I've been all over the mountains of Appalachia when I ask people, would you rather that your senators take care of you here in Asheville or here in Pikeville, here in Appalachia? Would you rather them send your money to Ukraine? I don't get anybody wanting to send a penny to Ukraine. Look, you can have all kinds of sympathy in the world for Ukraine, hostility towards Russia being the aggressor nation, but we don't have the money. We're $2 trillion in the hole. Interest this year is going to be $1 trillion. And as far as passing this, I'm willing to let it pass today. He's going to object to passing his own bill today simply because it gets paid for. I'm willing to let the bill pass, but take some of the fluff and boondoggle subsidies from the Green New Deal and put it into here. The money's sitting here. We put it into here for disasters. We help Asheville today.
Have you ever had great honey? No, I mean really good, all-natural, raw honey? Well, now you can, thanks to localhoneyman.com. We can ship out our locally made honey all across the U.S. So don't worry, you won't miss out. Plus, Local Honeyman has so many different flavors, like Utah Wildflower, High Desert Delight, Happy Valley, and Blackberry, just to name a few. So purchase your delicious raw honey today at localhoneyman.com.
Do you treasure your liberty? Well, at lovingliberty.net, we most certainly do. And we want to help protect your liberty too. Become part of the family. Everyone knows that the core of any society is the family. Therefore, the government should foster and protect the integrity of its family, we the people. Won't you join us as a Loving Liberty sponsor to help us promote the principles in the 5,000-year leap? Let's restore the miracle that changed the world at lovingliberty.net.
All right. Back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. Bryan Rust, freewatercoinco.com with me. Welcome back, sir.
Thanks, Sam. Glad to be with you this morning.
So there's so much going on. I was talking about, this battle between good and evil, right and wrong, moral versus immoral, and the war in heaven continues on the earth today. And I'm in Las Vegas, and I was talking about this idea that they've even got an IV station here, Brian. When everybody goes and gets all drunk and crazy and parties, they get big old hangovers. So they come to this IV station, and they get an IV that's full of saline solution and vitamin B and everything else, and they try to recover for their hangovers for the sole purpose that they can go do it again. It is insanity, Brian.
Wow.
It's like, what the heck is happening?
Well, that's very interesting. I guess to sustain life, you've got to jump in line. Well, I'll be in line with the IVs.
No, man, I'm not doing an IV. What you got to do, Brian, is you got to go to bed early. You got to wake up early, as the good Lord intended, and you got to stay hydrated and drink a lot of good liquids. And you got to take care of yourself. You can't just trash yourself and then hope for a magic recovery from a shot in the arm and then go back. It's an insane cycle. And I talked to a guy, and I was telling him about this and telling him how shocked I was and chagrined that it was insane. And he goes, man, where do I go? I want one of them. I'm just like, what in the heck is going on?
Well, what goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas, I guess. I don't know.
Not in God's world, sir. That isn't
That's
the way
true.
It works.
That's true.
There are, some in the world they call it karma, Brian. For you and I, we call it consequences, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Anyway, I don't mean to go off on this forever, but I was just shocked. And so they're just like, hey, you're going to start the party. I mean, they're literally drinking like from noon on.
Yeah, is that sustainable? I don't think so.
I mean,
That's
I don't think it's wise or sustainable. I think what it results in is a loss of agency. And we're all in the middle. It's beyond a culture war at this point. It's like we've got to use our time here on earth wisely and spend our time in righteous, good, honorable pursuits and such like that. Anyway, I'm just shocked that if we want liberty, I'm telling you right now, liberty does not start with an IV in the morning. Now, don't get me wrong. If you really have a medical condition that requires an IV, I'm all about that. I'm just saying that these people don't have any real problems except for they just trashed their body the night before. They stayed up too late. They got all drunk. They got all dehydrated. Their head hurts. They're just melting down. And this is supposed to be the quick fix, Brian.
Yeah, I don't see it. It kind of, my thought process was, we're so dependent on things. They push to go. Maybe I'm going a different direction, but a Tesla, or these vehicles, you got to charge the battery. So you'd go, and then you'd have to pull off and plug in. And it seems like that we're reliant on that because we can't keep going. We have to stop and, well, just like this, they go, and then they've got to plug themselves back in. And that's crazy.
No, it's exactly right. And I'm not really for the Tesla vehicles. I'm not really for the EV world, the electric world. I think we pretend it's clean energy. I think it's a lie. It's just a different dirtying in a different portion of the supply chain. In other words, instead of driving down the road, the exhaust comes out. It's in the creation of and the disposal of all the battery systems and all the electronics to make it happen. And this kind of stuff, I just think we're playing games. You can't rob Peter to pay Paul, I think is the statement that relates to all of this, whether it's personal, whether it's a Tesla, and whether it's the economy at large, Brian.
Well, you're exactly right. Tying into this, I read an article from this Mike Meharry from Money Metals, and he kind of described the economy as addicted to easy money, comparing it to a drug dependency that requires larger and larger doses to maintain the same high. So, meaning the Fed is increasingly desperate efforts to keep the economy afloat through artificial stimulus. So, kind of that same scenario with money, and that's what he.
Hey, Brian, how do I get a money IV, buddy? I need a money IV, and I need one now.
well, Sam, I think it's called liquid gold, isn't it? Is that what they try to tell you? If it looks like gold, it is gold, and let us pump it into your veins.
Isn't liquid gold oil these days too?
Yeah, that's what it was, wasn't it? The Clampets, wasn't it? Liquid gold.
Yeah. Anyway, I look at that and I just go, folks, listen, we need sound principles. And then we need to take action with sound responses to sound principles, understanding that, you know what, there are laws in heaven that undergird everything we do. When we obey proper laws in heaven, when we adhere to the law, we are blessed and protected. When we violate the laws of heaven, we have consequences for violations of those laws. And I don't care if we're talking about personal, we're talking about Teslas, we're talking about IVs or one's personal, body. I consider the body to be a temple. So, okay. But whether it's the economy at large, you've got to obey fundamental principles, Brian. And I think what we want is you could say rob Peter to pay Paul. You could say we want our cake and to eat it too. I mean, I don't know what metaphor you want to use for this, but we have got to follow sound principles here, or I just don't see how it can go well because you're violating the laws. Isn't this just like a logical proposition that I'm talking about?
Very logical. We kind of call it a words of wisdom kind of thing, and that protects our body and our thought processes and our choices that we make. And in doing so, as you said, we're blessed. We're us as God's children continue to bless other God's children, and we're not dependent on something else to keep us afloat or keep us running. We call upon our God to help and bless us, and we live those words of wisdom, I think.
Anyway, it seems like we're Roadrunner of the 70s, man, but we don't even know where we're headed. We're just running around.
With a chicken with our heads cut off, maybe. That's what.
It's kind of crazy. And anyway, so I that's really kind of that's the downside of what I've experienced at this show called Shop Talk in Las Vegas is that people just seem like they're just heck bent for whatever entertainment they can get. They don't even really care what the consequences are because, they've got ways to mitigate the consequences or pretend that, overcome the consequences. That will only last so long if you go down that road. And there's better ways to live your life. There's more there's choices to be made, and there's blessings at the end of those choices if you make wise decisions. There's great gratitude in your heart. There's satisfaction of accomplishments or a well-lived life and these kind of things. I mean, those are the things that we should be focused on. How do you build memories that last? And anyway, I contrast this because I went to a baptism of my grandson not too long before this Vegas trip, and I just think, man, the contrast is so stark. It's just, I mean, it's like the sun rising in the morning. It's just blatantly obvious to a guy like me. But maybe that's because I'm just too stupid, Brian. I don't know.
I wouldn't call it that, Sam. I think those are it's smart. It's guidance. I mean, it's proper guidance and having ourselves aligned. I mean, it seems like a lot of times people look at us, maybe here in this valley, we go to a football game or so on, and we're not drinking the beer. I mean, don't get me wrong, that does happen in various venues, but we're not drinking, and we don't need the adrenaline based on some kind of drug, alcohol, or something to keep us at a high. We can enjoy the game. We can, do it in a happy manner and not, putting something in us that has to, so that we are creating this thing. And I kind of look at it, maybe, I look at these spring breaks that they go down to Florida and they get drunk and they're putting little pills or something and drugging some girl or something so they can do whatever they want to this, and I look at all these things and the choices and those actions, and then people, a person is convicted because this person goes missing, and there's just all this entanglement together, and it's all about the big party, the big addiction, or drugged up, or alcohol loaded, or all those things. So I don't know.
Anyway, on your personal life, drinking lots of good, clean water, getting some rest, eating some nutritious food, those are the kind of way to go. And so everybody else is half dead at this event that I go, I'm going to, and me and my buddy here, we don't do any of those things. So we're like, morning, and they're like, they don't even talk. It's just like, wow, we're like top of the morning to you. It's quite comical, actually. But I digress. It's a great the talk. Or the talk shop, or whatever it is, Shock Top show. It's impressive in that there's a lot of people doing a lot of good things for the economy. But I kind of asked myself this question, Brian, and I go through this whole big thing to kind of discuss the economy with you today a little bit. It is the Honest Money segments of the radio program. And I kind of, here's what they say. Sam, you can sell more, sell faster, sell easier. You can turn everything into a sale. And I go, and I'm thinking, I get that I want to sell products, right? That's what companies do. They sell products and they sell services. I get wanting to do that. It makes sense. That's what your business is for. But I guess I kind of ask myself, how much of the get, spend economy do we need to participate in? How big does my business need to get? How many sales do I need? When would somebody go, hey, we've got enough sales over here? Just got enough. Don't need more sales. Or does it never end? If you take company A, is it always just a quest to just get bigger, faster, more? Is there an end to that? And I think about that economy wide. They say the economy's taking a dip. People aren't spending. I'm kind of thinking, well, if people don't have money, they probably should not be spending. I don't know why I would just say they need to be spending anyways. Well, if they don't have money, they shouldn't be spending, right? But is that an economy problem? To say I don't have money, so I'm not going to spend? Well, you can say, well, yeah, Sam, we need to make you some money. How much money do I need to make so that how much money do I need to spend? When we come back, I want to kind of break that down with Brian, because I really think this is important. When is enough, or how much do I have to get? When have I made it, if you will? Kind of a weird question, and then we'll get a constitutional update on honest money, asset-based currency, gold and silver. We'll get the numbers on that, too, from Brian in seconds. We're talking to Bryan Rust at freewaterquenco.com. You've got a friend in the honest money business. Hang tight. We'll chat more in seconds on your radio.
Protecting your liberties. You're listening to Liberty News Radio.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. An illegal alien identified by the feds as a high-ranking member of the violent MS-13 gang has been arrested in Virginia.
The 24-year-old suspect was taken into custody in Woodbridge, Virginia, some 30 miles south of the nation's capital, along the heavily trafficked I-95 corridor at a hub where local roadways spoke westward into the state. Authorities have yet to release the suspect's name, but they say he's one of the top 3 leaders of the notorious gang in the country. The announcement made this morning during a news conference which included Virginia's Governor Glenn Youngkin, joined by U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel, the latter two saying they observed the arrest at a nearby Tactical Operations Center. George Williams reporting.
President Trump touting his decision to impose 25% tariffs on imported vehicles and vehicle parts effective next week.
This will continue to spur growth like you haven't seen. Before I was elected, we were losing all of our plants. They were being built in Mexico and Canada and other places. Now those plants largely have stopped and they're moving them to our country.
The looming tariffs have taken a toll on the stock price of some automakers, but it hasn't been a huge decline since this wasn't totally unexpected. Japan says it's considering all kinds of countermeasures in response to the pending tariffs. U.S. economy grew at a healthy 2.4% annual clip October through December, bolstered by a year-end surge in consumer spending. That's according to the government, upping its previous estimate of economic growth. The Republican chair of the Senate Armed Services Committee says he wants the Pentagon Inspector General to investigate how a journalist was accidentally added to a group chat about military strikes in Yemen. Watching Wall Street, the Dow down 187 points. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Financing a home, especially in today's market, is one of the biggest decisions you'll make for your family. Work with a mortgage company that puts you first. I do. Work with a lender founded on biblical principles like do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. I do. It's Mike Gallagher for the only mortgage company I've used for almost a decade now when financing or refinancing Fellowship Home Loans. I'm friends with the owners, Mike and Bryan. I even have them on my show occasionally. I know the care their team puts into every single customer. I can personally tell you that it's a smooth, stress-free process, and that's due to Fellowship's level of service and expertise that puts you in the right loan for your family and your goals. There's a reason Fellowship Home Loans is flooded with 5-star reviews. Whether purchasing a home or a cash-out refi to consolidate some higher interest debt, you can trust Fellowship Home Loans. Start the process. Make the call. 800-510-MIKE, 800-510-MIKE, 800-510-6453. Fellowship Home Loans, mortgage lending by the book.
Nationwide Mortgage Bankers, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 819382.
As you are aware, America is divided over every fault line possible. This is intentionally fostered by those who do not love God, family, or country. We believe a peaceful future as a free people absolutely depends on civility. Clarion Call for Civility is looking for funding and volunteers at every level to make our hopes and efforts a reality. Please donate, sign our pledge, and help us in our sacred cause. Please visit callforcivility.com for more details. Callforcivility.com.
Bypass the mainstream narrative with Liberty News Radio at libertynewsradio.com. Engage with charismatic hosts live or on demand. We cover the crucial news focused on God, family, and country. News that other networks simply refuse to use. Think of LNR's hard-hitting news and podcast at your fingertips, anytime, anywhere. Join us at libertynewsradio.com. Empower your day with the truth, because the truth will set you free. libertynewsradio.com.
As the United States boldly stepped forward in the glorious light provided by its new Constitution in 1787, the nations of the earth were in awe of the newfound strength and hope of this free land. Today, the nation stands at a crossroads. A divergence from the original intent put forth in the United States Constitution has brought grave threats to our beloved nation. A miracle is needed if the United States is to survive. That miracle is again the pure application of the United States Constitution. I'm Scott Bradley. In my To Preserve the Nation book and lecture series, I bring forth truths that will help raise up a new generation of statesmen like those noble Americans who founded this land. Vigorous application of these principles will invigorate and restore the nation, and we may become again the freest, most prosperous, most respected, and happiest nation on earth. Visit topreservethenation.com to begin that restoration.
Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
Bryan Rust of FreeWaterCoinCo.com with me, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about the Honest Money Report, and I was kind of mentioning right before the pause about, hey, you know, how much is enough in the economy? You got to get and spend and and just ramp it up. It never ends, and everybody's got to make more money. And if anybody decides not to spend, they're like, oh my gosh, the economy's going to tank. It's going to melt down. Nobody's spending more than they did the day before. And when will it end? But then I got thinking on the break really quick, too. You know, they have these, Bryan Rust brought up spring break and people going and partying in cities. Now cities are kind of saying, hey, don't come to our area to celebrate spring break. We don't want all the trouble that it brings. It's gotten so bad. And I think about that, and then they have these movies and these TV shows and everything, Girls Gone Wild, and these girls just do all these crazy, things. And I thought, this broadcast is like Patriots Gone Wild, Brian. We're just throwing down the Constitution and talking about God and family and country and life and liberty and property and, agency and choice and accountability and all the... It's like Patriots Gone Wild, buddy.
Well, like you say, you'll walk by and mention, hey, howdy, how you doing? And there's not even a comment. There's kind of just a glassy eye maybe or something.
They just look at you and like, how dare you talk to me this early in the morning and stuff like that. It's just like, wow.
Whatever gets them back up.
Well, and that's the thing. Everybody's got a coffee in their hand literally 24/7. It is just something. Anyway, I don't mean to be critical of people, but I look at it and I go, I just want people to realize there's a better life out there, is my whole point. My goal is not to criticize anybody. My goal, though, is to say, you know what? There is a future, there is a hope, there is a God, and there are great, great, great things. But really, economically speaking, how much is enough, Brian? How much does my company need to make? And how much do I need to spend making all that money? At some point, I kind of go, what if we spend a little less? What if we earned a little less? What if we didn't focus so much on, quote, economic growth every second, and we just said, hey, I've got enough. This is great. I'm able to spend my time serving others and spend my time. There's more than just getting and spending, Brian, is the whole point.
Well, we live in a generation of more, or bigger type thing, or comparing ourselves to the neighbors or what do they have, and regardless of what it costs us. If we have to go in debt, or, the world also, they're teaching you here's a new credit card, or here's another credit card, and the bonuses on this credit card. So now they're pushing all these credit cards, and well, the world we live in, it's credit card debt. There's a ton of it out there, just so that we could have more than our neighbor, or bigger or better than our neighbor, or instead of sufficient for what we need. And we're doing fine, and we can help and bless and so on, and do what we can. But it's having the most, and the younger generation. I kind of look back and I got to have it now. I want the big truck, the big tires, the big whatever it is. I got to have it now. The boat behind my truck, and I don't know. It just seems like that's where it is. And so, and obviously banks are willing to give us easy money. Here, take these cards. You can have it right now.
Well, the country song says there's no trailer hitches for Hearsts.
That's right.
You can't take it with you, right? And so I look at that and I just kind of think, man, I don't know. It reminds me of the old story I used to tell in my early days of radio 20, 30 years ago. There's a fishing village. This fisherman, he goes out fishing in the morning, comes back about, 10, 11. He's fished for 3 or 4 or 5 hours in the morning time, sells his fish. Then he hangs out with his family and drinks lemonade and plays his guitar and spends his time with his wife and his family and his kids. And they take a stroll on the beach and just enjoy this great time. And then this big old Harvard graduate rolls into town. And he's like, man, you realize you could, save your money, work the whole day, get 2 boats, and then eventually you could have people run those boats, and then you could, and the whole time the guy's like, what for, senor? What for, senor? And he keeps telling him, and then he goes, well, so you can sit back and play guitar and hang out with your family, and he says, what for, senor? And it really illustrates the point so well that it's like, at some point, I think we're on this crazy psychotic treadmill of false prosperity and false. Everything we do seems to be kind of a false bottom scenario. When you got unlimited drinks, unlimited fries, unlimited it's just crazy. And it's like, how many fries can you eat? How many drinks can you refill? How many, and at some point, I think we need to start thinking beyond that in our society. How can I make society better? What can I do to improve things for those around me? What can I do to give people hope and, smile at people and give people a cheerful comment and make their day better or make their lives easier? And it isn't just a money proposition. It's a service proposition. It's a lifestyle change. It's a hoping for the best and, in a sense, planning for the worst, but doing all that you can to improve things and make things better. And little tiny things go a long way. Random acts of kindness, running around doing these. I don't know. Anyway, maybe I'm off on a rant, but this whole contrast between going to this baptism for my grandson and, talking about, I gave a talk about the Holy Ghost and about how we communicate to God through our prayers and how God communicates to us through the Holy Ghost. And I compare that to then going to this thing where people are just like, hey, man, I need my IV so I can so I can just start the partying over again. Get the IV, feel great, start the party again. And I just think, man, what a contrast in those 2 weeks that are almost back to back, Brian. And that's what brought this all up for me. And then I just kind of went on a rant,
Well, you do. You see both sides of the picture here. And that's kind of, if we get back to our basics or who we are, if we're God-fearing people and God's children and so on, and there is a opposition to God, then his plan would be to be totally opposite of what God's plan would be. And so that's what we see, I think, in the world today. And the world today is really taking God out of the picture, and they don't need God. It's all about them, and I'm the master, and don't tell me this, that, and the other, control, and it's not about control. It's about, having our lives in order, a house of order. And yeah, like you say, you can't take this, this material stuff with you, and you can, like you mentioned. And so, the structure is, how can we be a person or build our family unit, which brings joy into our lives. They've already had studies on the family, and if we destroy the family and how society, comes about as a result of that. I mean, there's things like that already showed studies. So I think it's a house of order, putting our houses and blessing the lives of our children and teaching them correct principles. And maybe we wouldn't have the problems we have today.
And I find that funny when I talk to people. They're like, Sam, you say the same things all the time on the radio. You cover the same topics and the same things over and over. And I mean, we've already heard that before, Sam. So, why don't you just give it a rest, they say. Here's my response. So let me get this right. When you guys watch basketball, your whole singular goal is to get the ball in the hoop. All you do, get the ball in the hoop. Do it over again. Do it over again. Do it over again. But then I talk about the same things. All your job is to get the ball in the hoop, just over it. Doesn't matter what the details are. You just get the ball in the hoop over and over. And that's not the same thing, really. That's like very creative and innovative. And I mean, rock stars and millions of dollars flowing, and everybody's got their time and spend all this hours and hours now. And all the job is get the ball in the hoop. Get the ball in the hoop. Get the ball. And then, hey, when I talk, I'm talking about the same things. But see, I'm talking about real life, though. I'm talking about an experience that I had with my grandchildren, in contrast to the experience that I have in my professional career at an event, and the reality that I see in the world, and these opposite experiences or whatever, these contrasting experiences. And yeah, it's God, family, and country all the time. But, man, it's so diverse and so unique and detailed. And in the description and everything, their goal is just get the ball in the hoop over and over and over. I'm doing the same thing all the time, and they're not. I don't understand it.
Well, that's because.
See how bright I am, Brian?
Well, you're very bright, Sam, and that's why that's a good analogy right there. And if they could picture that a little bit, but you are exactly right. That's exactly
hey, what's
right.
your goal? Oh, I need to get the ball in the hoop. My job is to make more points than the other guy. We're going to do that every time. Got a new game. Hey, we're looking live on a Saturday night. Tip off. Oh, they tip off. It's the same every time. They just tip off the ball, and then their goal is to get the ball in the hoop for 48 minutes straight. And then, hey, next game, do it again. In fact, overlapping games. We're going to put 4 games on the same screen. We break it out with YouTube now. We can put 4 games on the same screen, and the 4 games, they're all the same goal. We're going to get the ball in the hoop. more times than the other guy does. That's the whole goal. Over and over, 4 games all side by side in a square, and you're going to watch them and keep an eye on all 4 of them because they're doing super different stuff. It's way diverse, way unique, and Sam, you're talking about the same stuff all the time. Just go, what is happening?
Well, the color system. They have different colored uniforms. Maybe that. But you're right. Totally right.
I just think it's so weird, so strange, so bizarre. All right, when we come back, I want to get the where gold and silver is sitting, talk about coins and money a little bit. Honest money is the topic on the radio today. And yes, we talk about it over and over and over because an asset-based society would be a blessing and a half. Just ask our founders. Hang tight. Bryan Rust with me on your radio.
Introducing Managed IT Services from NPI. We offer top-notch data backup and recovery, email spam protection, and network security tailored to your needs and budget. With 20-plus years of experience in the medical field, our HIPAA-certified consultants know what it takes to protect sensitive information. Don't settle for less. Give us a call at 801-706-6980 and experience the difference with Managed IT Services. Remember, your IT support should be fast, efficient, and reliable.
Introducing PrepStartsNow.com, your ultimate guide to readiness and peace of mind. We offer practical preparedness tools, training, and education to take your family's household readiness to the next level. Browse the prep shop for essential products, check out our planning guides, and stay informed with our prep blog. Visit PrepStartsNow.com and subscribe to our emails for exclusive offers, new products, and future events. Remember, preparedness begins with PrepStartsNow.com.
Why don't we say to the government writ large that they have to spend a little bit less? Anybody ever had less money this year than you had last? Anybody ever having a 1% pay cut? You deal with it. That's what government needs, a 1% pay cut. If you take a 1% pay cut across the board, you have more than enough money to actually pay for the disaster relief. But nobody's going to do that because they're fiscally irresponsible. Who are they? Republicans. Who are they? Democrats. Who are they? Virtually the whole body is careless and reckless with your money. So the money will not be offset by cuts anywhere. The money will be added to the debt, and there will be a day of reckoning. What's the day of reckoning? The day of reckoning may well be the collapse of the stock market. The day of reckoning may be the collapse of the dollar. When it comes, I can't tell you exactly, but I can tell you it has happened repeatedly in history when countries ruin their currency.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Liberty Roundtable Live in the Honest Money Report. Bryan Rust with me. FreeWaterCoinCo.com. You've got a friend in the honest money business. Where's gold sitting, Bryan?
We're at $3,034.50.
We've been holding above 3,000 pretty steady. Is that kind of the new floor, sir?
Yeah, it is a new floor, Cannon. It's been strong, and why wouldn't it be based on the world itself? And showing strength.
I got a question for you, Bryan. Speaking of gold, how come we haven't seen the reality TV show where they roll into Fort Knox yet? What's happening with that? Any idea?
Well, I just thought, when they bring the fact that, the point out of going in there and let's see what's there, that caused some real havoc, I believe, because I don't believe there was anything there, and so I think now it's scrambling to get things back in there, or, for instance, JP, maybe you're sitting on a lot of gold bars. Let's get those back in there so we can, when we do the reality show, we can actually show that there is something in there, whether it be copper bars and we're going to paint them or paint them gold, whatever. I just don't think there was anything there.
A lot of the times they use tungsten for that, right? Is tungsten worth anything?
No, I don't think so. So
it's like copper bars in there. Yeah. But copper's pretty expensive now. Where's copper sitting?
I was over 5 here. I didn't look today, but it's showing strength. I mean, there's a lot of resources or usage for copper. So
folks, back in the day, silver was like $1 an ounce. Now copper's $5 an ounce, and people are like, "Yeah, metals don't do very well, Bryan. They don't keep up with the economy." What?
That's not real. Like I always keep preaching, my quarter still buys me a gallon of gas. Has not changed at all. So,
and that would be a honest money quarter, ladies and gentlemen, a constitutional quarter. All right, so that's gold, $3,034 basically. Silver,
$33.74.
Wow, so $33.74. That's quite a bit for an ounce of silver, isn't it?
That's moving up, but we've been at 50 before. We're going back to 50. I guarantee we're hitting 50 again and higher. I'm pretty conservative, but we're going higher. So,
and silver used to be $1 for that same ounce, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that's hard to imagine. And so I guess, I mean, the case need to be made before Congress that, hey, if silver used to be $1 and now silver's $34 almost, how can they justify anything they've done in the economy for the last 100+ years? I mean, we've literally taken silver and moved it from $1 to almost $34 and absolutely on the rise. I mean, the new floor is going to be $30 for an ounce of silver, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right, or higher. I mean, it's where it's going based on, industry doesn't care the price per se, because they're gonna pay whatever, because that's what they use for their industry uses it. So yeah, I mean, for them to just say, I mean, we've kind of gone away from the metal because we were fiat currency. If we can print more money just out of thin air, then hey, we're winning the game. We can fool everybody and just we'll give them these little paper, dollar bills and so on. But every country in the world's devalued that except us, and we're heading that way. We're going to devalue. So I mean, yeah.
Well, now I found this fascinating. So Elon Musk, the head of Doge, and everybody knows who Elon is. He's hanging out with Senator Ted Cruz, and they're doing a podcast together. And Elon basically says, "Hey, they got these computers now that create money out of thin air." And Ted Cruz is like, "What?" Yeah, 14 computers that just create money. I mean, they just like pay people money, and it's out of thin air. And I kind of thought, the new headline is "Money doesn't even grow on trees." You were told your whole life money grew on trees, Brian. It turned out to be a lie, buddy. What the heck is happening? Money does not grow on trees, and it didn't grow on trees in the constitutional era of honest money. It doesn't grow on trees in the latest iteration of fake money either. Very, very interesting discussion. But I mean, Senator Cruz is just astounded that they got these 14 computers that can create money out of thin air. And my response is, guys, this is nothing new. It's been going on for 100 years. The only difference is instead of a banking cartel creating money out of thin air, now these departments are doing it without the government, but yet they're giving the Federal Reserve the credit for the transactions nevertheless.
That's right. That's a great out of thin. I love.
I don't even need to print money anymore, buddy. Why would I waste a tree printing money?
Yeah,
and
that's right.
And it's so interesting. It's kind of like I got to generate money so fast that I can't even go to the Federal Reserve and have them allocate it for me. I need my own magic money machine. And that's what Elon's calling it. They're magic money machines. And Senator Ted Cruz, the guy that's like in charge of the purse strings in Congress. I mean, I know the House starts and controls the purse strings, but it's got to go through the Senate to get passed and move to the president for signage. And okay. Anyway, and this guy's astounded at this. And I'm thinking, where have you been, Cruz? I mean, are you that clueless, buddy, to where you're just astounded at this? I'm just like, hey, they just didn't want to waste time going to the Federal Reserve. Somebody might ask a question. If I just have my own internal money magic machine computer, I don't even need to talk to anybody. I just press a button and send whatever money anywhere I want to. And then you can't really trace it, right? If you can't trace somebody hacking you on the internet, how are you going to trace where they send money, Brian? So now we can create money out of thin air going to nobody for approval, and you can't even tell where we sent it. You certainly can't tell where it came from because it came from nowhere. I mean, right?
Right. Well, isn't that Isn't that what the crypto thing is as well? I mean, isn't it?
Oh no, Brian. No, sir. The crypto, buddy. You can trace everything. You can know exactly what's going on. It's the blockchain. It's as transparent as it gets, Brian. Not.
It's the whole game here. It's kind of the next new distraction piece that we can get people to buy into, and it's just the next I guess money.
So here's how it is. The blockchain can trace every transaction, Brian. but it traces it anonymously.
There you go. So,
and we can't tell you how it entered the blockchain, and we can't tell you exactly how it left. We know that it left, but we can trace it all along the way anonymously. And you don't know how it entered or how it went away. But don't worry, the blockchain's solid as a rock, buddy. You can know exactly what's going on.
That's awesome. Well, it's good. We've gone. At least we caught the computer things. We now see that. Now they've kind of moved from that to something else over here, the blockchain. Okay. Well, all right.
And you know what? You know what's funny? When I bring this up, people are like, "Sam, you just don't understand tech. If you understood tech, you would understand." It's like these guys, people really have debates with me on this. They're like, "Sam, in the digital world, how many listeners do you have?" And I'm like, you just can't know. I know people tell you, Sam, if you understood tech, you'd know that they can track the number of listeners that you have. And then I've got literally a plethora of articles where it's like even the mainstream's admitting, we have no idea, buddy. We can't know. Because we can't even debate what a listen is, Brian. What's a listen? Well, you see, if you click on the thing and it starts, it's a listen. So if I click on it and my computer crashes and I reboot and click again, is it 2 listens? Oh, absolutely. And then somebody else is like, hey, if I click on it and then I walk away to go get a coffee, I don't drink coffee, but is that a listen? Oh, absolutely. Well, what if 3 people are in the room while I'm listening? Is that a single listen? Yeah, Sam, it's 1 listen. And I'm like, okay, and you guys got a handle on this, right? You know exactly because it's digital, and you can count everything in the digital world, right? And people are like, what? Sam, you can know. And so then I say things like, okay, is a listen the same between Google and, say, YouTube and, say, Spotify? Well, some of these companies don't even tell you what a listen is, Brian. Others are like, no, you have to listen for 15 seconds or more. Okay, so if you do an hour radio show and I listen for more, 16 seconds, is that a listen? Well, of course it is, Sam. Absolutely. That's how we define a listen. And I'm like, if you listen to 16 seconds of Sam Bushman, all you hear is don't dip your toe in the crypto, and that's all you've heard. and that's a listen to these people. And then they're like, Sam, you just don't know. Anyway, I find the whole thing just so fascinating how we live in this world of things we claim or think we know, and we don't have a clue, buddy.
That is awesome, Sam. I love it. You've really hit it here. Maybe we need to patent this little thing that's going on right here because you got it. I'm
going to define a listener as you got to listen with both ears. That's what I'm doing. See, one ear that's a half listen, right? You got to listen with both ears to be a full listen. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Well, do you understand a word I said? No, I don't speak English. Is that a listen? I heard all of it with both my ears. I just didn't understand a single thing I heard, but I listened, buddy.
My wife says that sometimes I don't listen. So maybe I got to tune in better or do something.
Yes, you do.
A better listener. And
then my next question is, here's my next question for all these people, just to kind of throw a little fly in the ointment, because I'm that kind of guy. How many listeners does God have?
Good point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he talks about, at least for thousands of years in the scriptures and stuff, it's like he goes, you guys aren't listening to me.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And I think God needs more listeners.
Amen.
And I think we need more listeners. And I don't mean people that hear. I mean people that listen. And so now you got to debate what's the difference. What's wisdom? And it's the proper application of knowledge. So you might have a lot of facts, a lot of knowledge, but you may not have wisdom. It's kind of like the same thing with listening and hearing. You might be listening, but you're not hearing me, right?
I get it, Sam. You've hit something here, brother. I like it.
I'm just a redneck trying to do radio, Maybe one of these days I'll figure out how to do it. Brian, thank you so.
Hey, Sam.
Go ahead,
the truth
sir.
Shall make you free. I like it.
If I embrace it, you're exactly right. Thank you, my friend. We appreciate all that you do. Ladies and gentlemen, freewatercoinco.com. You've got a friend in the honest money business. Don't just think about buying precious metals. Get it done. And most importantly, listen to me. Take possession of your metal, please. That is Bryan Rust's sound advice. You hear the sound of my voice? Take possession of your metals. freewatercoinco.com. Thank you so much. God save our republic.